Donald Trump has been feuding with Republican lawmakers who are not using his preferred defense when it comes to Trump's phone call with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Now, to give you a little taste of what Trump does not like when defending him, let's go to Representative Mac Thornberry.
It has been one-sided from the beginning.
Congressman, you're again talking about the process. I ask you about substance. How do you fend against this substance?
Well, as you know, maybe you know, Martha, I believe that it is inappropriate for a president to ask a foreign leader to investigate a political rival. Now, it leads to a question. If there's a political rival with a family member who's involved in questionable activity, what do? Just let him alone. But set that aside. I believe it was inappropriate. I do not believe it was impeachable.
Now, the fact that Representative Thornberry kept referring to the phone conversation as inappropriate is something that's been really getting under Donald Trump's skin, because he's been repeating over and over again that the phone call was perfect. It was a perfect call. In fact, he went at it on Twitter saying the call to the Ukrainian president was perfect. Read the transcript. There was nothing said that was in any way wrong. Republicans, don't be led into the fool's trap of saying it was not perfect, but is not impeachable. No, it is much stronger than that. Nothing was done wrong. Now, we're about to go into the so-called transcript in just a minute to show you just how imperfect it is. But Cenk, jump in.
So, look, even outside of the context of the criminal actions of the president, which I'll get back to in a second, think about what a lunatic he is. If you had anybody like this in your personal life, you'd run for the hills. My call was perfect. I've had a lot of really good calls. I don't think any of them have been perfect. What does that mean, right? And not only does he keep screaming into the ether, my call was perfect, like a lunatic, but he is now insisting that other Republicans subjected themselves to this humiliation of having to go on TV and saying, yes, the president had a perfect call. I mean, how many other perfect calls has he had?
No, he would argue that everything he does is perfect. He's never made a mistake in his life, unless it comes to legal settlements where he has to admit guilt in order to settle the case.
Do you know anyone in your personal life who thinks everything they do is perfect and is not a lunatic? Right, okay, so now back to the criminality. So the representative says, well, inappropriate, but not impeachable. Well, what do you mean inappropriate? It's illegal.
Right.
Both counts are illegal. You can't solicit work from a foreign government for your own political campaign, and you also can't do extortion. So they're both illegal. So are you saying, and this is what should be clarified by reporters, that yes, you acknowledge that they are clearly illegal? I mean, there's statutes. The statutes match this perfectly. There's no disputing it, right? But you're basically saying, and look, sometimes in some ways the Democrats said this in the Bill Clinton impeachment. Yeah, but it's not illegal enough. And maybe that's an interesting case to make, right? In the case of Bill Clinton, he told a lie about his affair. I don't particularly care about that lie, so I'm keeping it real, right? And I said that back when I was a Republican and they were doing impeachment. Now, so is that at the same level as extorting a foreign government?
No, it's not.
And betraying national security interests? I don't think it is. I don't think anyone could make a reasonable case that it is. But at least make that case and be honest. Don't give me this stuff with like, I mean, look, it was armed robbery, but I find that inappropriate and I'd rather not prosecute. Okay.
Now, all of these Republican lawmakers are, again, just looking out for their own political interests and the future of their political careers. That's all they care about. On one hand, they understand the nature of that phone call, and they understand that defending that phone call is unacceptable, right? They wouldn't defend that phone call if it was any other politician. But because Donald Trump is still popular with the Republican base, they feel this need to defend him without really defending him. And Trump sees it for what it is. And that's why he's calling them out and saying it's a perfect call, it's a perfect call. And he's demanding that they regurgitate that nonsense. Now, in his tweet, he said, read the transcript. First of all, I would love to read the actual transcript, which is still being held in a top secret server because the call was obviously not perfect. But we do have the summary or the memo of that conversation. And so let's talk about how imperfect it really was. I'm just gonna read you a few excerpts, right? We can't read the full thing right now, but these are the parts that were problematic to say the least. So here's Donald Trump during that phone conversation with Vladimir Zelensky. He said the following: I would like you to do us a favor though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike, the server, they say Ukraine has it. So that's where he wants Zelensky to do him a favor in investigating that so-called server. This is part of that nonsense conspiracy theory where Trump thinks Ukraine meddled in the elections, not Russia.
Okay, so number one, you mentioned CrowdStrike, that is specifically about your election in 2016. And this is my point about how the rest of the media doesn't acknowledge how incredibly unintelligent Donald Trump is. That's a wild, crazy conspiracy theory. And Trump commits an incredibly illegal act over something that isn't even remotely true. It has no chance of being true because he's such an idiot. Like, if you're gonna bother committing an illegal act, at least investigating the Bidens would hurt your political opponent. That's the second thing that he asked for. At least I understand the logic of that, as opposed to like, oh, I hear you have a secret server hidden into Ukraine. Go find it, do me a favor, okay? So does any of this sound perfect to you?
Of course it's not perfect. That's why Republican lawmakers can't defend the substance of this call. Now let's go to Vladimir Zelensky. As you guys already know, Trump kept urging Zelensky to talk to his personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. He is not a government official, he's not an elected official, he's not part of Trump's administration, he is Trump's personal lawyer. And Trump kept pushing Zelensky to speak to him. And so at one point in this conversation, Zelensky said to Trump, I will personally tell you that one of my assistants spoke with Mr. Giuliani just recently, and we are hoping very much that Mr. Giuliani will be able to travel to Ukraine and we will meet once he comes to Ukraine. I just wanted to assure you once again that you have nobody but friends around us. Okay, it's a little questionable. Then of course there was the proposal to investigate the Bidens. And here's what Donald Trump said in the summary of this phone call. The other thing, there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the Attorney General, meaning William Barr, would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution, so if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. By the way, the prosecutor who got fired was actually stagnant in the investigation into Burisma, right? Now, do I think Biden's son working for that gas company was an issue? Yes, I think that that's a perfect example of abuse of power. But the way that Trump has spun this to make it appear as though Biden interfered in that investigation and did away with that prosecutor is just a flat out lie.
So if you don't know this, the United States government does not send randos that are not in the government to negotiate with foreign governments. That just never happens. So Obama didn't send his accountant to negotiate with Botswana. Clinton and Reagan didn't send their plumber to negotiate with Canada or China. It's not a thing. And so even if you think that's not illegal, well, it's certainly inappropriate and totally unprecedented. Does it sound perfect to you?
So one other issue in that memo was, it's an issue that comes up a lot with Donald Trump. You have foreign leaders purposely booking rooms in his properties to garner support or favors from Donald Trump. And that came up in this call where Zelensky said, quote, last time I traveled to the United States, I stayed in New York near Central Park and I stayed at the Trump Tower. I will talk to them and I hope to see them again in the future, meaning his friends in the United States. I also wanted to thank you for your invitation to visit the United States, specifically Washington, D.C. So there was a lot of, look, that's not, you can maybe say, or maybe he's just being nice and he's saying that he stayed at Trump property. But it's well known that again, foreign leaders, foreign politicians will stay at his properties in order to get into his good graces. And I think that's the case here. And finally, one other point from Zelensky's portion of that call. He said, quote, on the other hand, I also want to assure you that we will be very serious about the case and will work on the investigation. So the investigation into the Biden. So he had to keep assuring Donald Trump, don't worry, we got you, we're gonna give you what you want.
So as I've told you before, the reason that Trump keeps saying that it's perfect is because he thinks he committed the perfect crime. Oh, well, I robbed the bank, but I was wearing a mask, so you couldn't tell who it was. Meanwhile, it's a guy with a long red tie and tiny hands and orange hair, but he's like, it was the perfect entry into the bank, okay? You'd be like, what do you mean perfect, dude? We can see it's you with a mask on, right? But that's what he thinks he's doing here. He's like, I asked him to do a favor. I said investigate the Bidens, but I told Giuliani ahead of time and Mulvaney to stop their aid and tell them I'm stopping their aid, but I didn't say it on the phone call. That was perfect. Yeah, he is that dumb.
And that's why Republican lawmakers are having a difficult time defending the substance of Donald Trump's conversation with Zelensky. And I want to end this with one more clip from Representative Thornberry, because just get a load of what he compares Trump to.
Process, y'all always want to say substance, not process. There's a reason we let murderers and robbers and rapists go free when their due process rights have been violated. We believe the integrity of the system, the integrity of the Constitution, the integrity of the processes under our legal system is more important than the outcome of one particular case.
Not a good defense. Right, comparing him to robbers and murderers. The process, by the way, is constitutional. There haven't been any issues with the process whatsoever. The impeachment investigation is going to become public this week. And there is no indication that congressional lawmakers who are part of this impeachment investigation have done anything wrong. The closed door sessions were completely legal. And part of the reason why is because you had John Boehner back in 2015 accomplishing closed door sessions in the Benghazi hearings. So
now I guess we gotta ask the Republicans, do you think murder is still illegal or just inappropriate? Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.